I stepped off the bus while the morning was still wrapped in fog. This new city was smaller than the one I used to live in. No loud alleyways, no blinding neon lights, just the smell of toasted bread in the morning air, and the slow hum of passing motorbikes. No one looked at me with suspicion. No one knew who I used to be. I rented a tiny room on the second floor of an old house. The paint was peeling. The window stuck whenever I tried to open it, but for the first time in years, I had a place where no one knocked on my door at midnight. On my first day looking for a job, my hands shook so badly I stuttered. I had never written a proper resume. I didn't have clean experience. A small restaurant hired me as a waitress. The pay was low. The work was exhausting, but I had never felt so relieved. That night, after changing into my uniform, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. No heavy makeup, no tight dresses, just a regular girl, with her hair tied low, and an oversized t-shirt. I didn't recognize myself. But this time, I didn't feel disgusted. The first few days were hard. I flinched whenever someone raised their voice. I wasn't used to customers who only wanted more water, not to buy my time. But slowly, I learned how to smile for real. Still, when the night falls, I remember a man with cold eyes. And I hate myself for that. Min is the assistant chef at the restaurant. He isn't the kind of man who turns heads. Tall, lean, always wearing an apron dusted with flour. The first time we met, he simply nodded at me and went back to chopping vegetables. On my third day, I dropped a tray of drinks in front of customers. The crash echoed through the room. My hands were shaking so badly, I couldn't even pick up the broken glass. Min walked over, gently pulled me behind him. "I'll handle it," he said. He didn't ask why my hands were trembling. He didn't ask why I avoided eye contact with everyone. In the days that followed, he would leave a portion of dinner for me. Whenever I worked the late shift, sometimes I got home late, he would stand outside the boarding house until he saw me and locked the door. "I just don't want anything to happen to you," he said simply. One evening, I dropped my old wallet. Inside was a photo of my father, lying in a hospital bed. Min picked it up, looked at it for a moment, then handed it back. He didn't ask. That silence made me feel safe. I never told him about my past. He never forced me to speak, but somehow, he always showed up, exactly when I needed him. One rainy afternoon, we stood under the restaurant awning after work. He handed me a cup of hot tea. "You used to live in a big city?" he asked. I nodded. Must have been a lot of sad memories there. I stayed quiet. He smiled softly. "It's okay. Tell me when you're ready. Or don't, that's okay too." That was when I realized, some people are so kind, it scares you to disappoint them. And at that exact moment, I understood something else. My heart was already too tired to fall in love again. The new city was so peaceful, I almost believed I had escaped my past. Until one day, a stranger walked into the restaurant. Dark suit, tall figure, a familiar cologne. I froze, but when he turned around, it wasn't him. I forced a smile, told myself I was being paranoid. That night I couldn't sleep. I wondered, had he ever thought about me? Then I scolded myself for still caring about a man who had hurt me that deeply. A week later, Min handed me an old newspaper. "Take a look at this," he said. In a small corner of the business section was a photo of a man I knew too well, Tran Kong. The article said he was searching for a missing woman. No name, no details. My heart pounded so hard, my hands began to shake. I folded the newspaper immediately. "Do you know him?" Min asked. I shook my head. But that night, I stood by the window for a long time. Rain fell quietly outside. I remembered the way he used to look at me, with contempt, and yet, unable to walk away. I whispered to myself, "Even if you find me, I won't go back. Because I know, if I see you again, my heart won't be strong enough to leave a second time." I thought I had gotten used to my new life. Work in the morning, cleaning in the afternoon, dinner with everyone at the restaurant at night. Small routines, repeating, comforting. They helped me forget. Until the morning Min took me to the market. The sky was still dim. Vegetable stalls were covered in dew. Suddenly, he stopped in the middle of the crowded aisle, and I turned around. He looked at me for a long moment, as if weighing something important. "I know you don't want to talk about your past," he said, "but I want to talk about the future." I stayed silent. "I like you," he continued. "Not because I pity you, not because you're fragile, just because I see how strong you are." My chest tightened. I wanted to say something kind, something gentle, but my throat closed. "I'm sorry." That was all I could manage. He smiled softly. No anger, no blame. I figured. We continued shopping as if nothing had happened. But from that day on, something changed. Min was still kind, but there was a quiet sadness in his eyes that I didn't know how to face. That night, I stood in front of the mirror for a long time. Why couldn't a good man like him make my heart move? The answer scared me, because my heart was still trapped with someone else. The rainy season came quickly. Gray afternoons made me think of my old city, the narrow alleys, the yellow streetlights, and him. I hated myself for remembering. Some nights, I dreamed I was back in that old room. He stood at the door, cold eyes, unchanged. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. When I woke up, I was crying. Min noticed the change in me. He didn't ask directly. He just left a cup of hot tea on the table. Whenever I worked late, one evening, he said quietly, "Don't force yourself to forget too fast. Some things need time." I nodded, but deep down, I knew, some people can't be forgotten, no matter how much time passes. A week later, the restaurant owner said, "Someone's been asking about the staff lately." I forced a smile, probably an old customer. But that night, I stood by the window, my heart beating faster than it should. A strange instinct kept me awake. He can't find me here. The world is too big, isn't it? That afternoon, the restaurant was unusually busy. I carried trays from table to table. Everything felt normal. Until I heard a familiar voice.